Hola. Que todo el mundo queja sobre mi castellano, so I'm going to speak in English because when I speak at Rubicon for Uruguay in Spanish, everyone complains. I was thinking about how to use my 10-minute slot here, and because we are you're Orientals and we're in the Oriental Republic of Uruguay, I thought I would focus on Oriental philosophy. And so the story of Jonathan Livingston Seagull, or Juan Salvador Gaviota, I thought was a good segue into talking about what it means to be a programmer and what we're doing when we do software development and the evolution of our craft. So, for those of you who don't know the story, it's from the 1970s, and it's a story about what it means to live and why you live. And it's a metaphor that talks about a seagull. And this seagull lives like all the other seagulls in a flock of seagulls, but he has a difference, which is he likes to play a lot, much more. And he starts playing, and he learns that the most interesting way to play is to fly, because that's what seagulls do. But he flies not in the utilitarian way of how do I get from here to there, but learning how to really fully embrace the craft of flying, the art of flying. So how to land without flapping your wings, how to fly up in spirals, all the things that birds can do, but which aren't very useful to a seagull day to day. And so he converts this idea of flying into an art. And he pours his body and his soul and all of his time into this art. And he has very little interest for everything else. And so he's not interested in finding a mate. He's not interested in raising kids. He's not interested in fighting over food or squabbling or any of the normal stuff that you're supposed to do as a seagull. And so he becomes kind of this black sheep. He's exiled from the community of seagulls who are very serious about their work. The normal seagull is a very professional animal that plays well with others and fights over their food and raises their kids and doesn't ask deep questions about what it means. And so Jonathan Livingston Seagull starts flying up, and he just goes higher and higher in the sky, and he decides to leave his flock and see what he can see. And eventually, by spiraling higher and higher up into the sky, he reaches another plane of existence. And that plane of existence is a place where all the seagulls love to fly. All the seagulls love to practice their craft. They all care about teaching each other and getting better at what they do and are less interested in the day-to-day activities of being a seagull and more interested in what it means to exist. So what he's done is he's gone from a world where people's craft was finding food and fucking and raising kids and just flying around the minimal amount you need to a place where there's sort of deep meaning in your activity. And eventually he gets to the place where he realizes that the best way to learn and get better and to become a self-fulfilled expert at his chosen craft is to teach. And to go back and say, the way I learn is by communicating with others, collaborating with others in community. And I couldn't do that alone as an individual with everything else. But now that I've found a community, I can maybe go back to my original flock and teach them so that we can all learn to love our craft instead of being sort of utilitarian and professional about it. And the reason I like this story is it's a story about us. It's a story about what it means to be a professional, what it means to be an artisan, what it means to be someone who cares deeply about their craft. We all are born not knowing how to program. We're born not with an idea of where we're coming from or what we're doing, but some point we found access to a computer. And that may have been when we were 5 or may have been when we were 25. But at some point we started playing with it, and at some point you ended up realizing that it wasn't something you could use, but something you could shape and create. Now most of us here are a bit too old, but the next generation here in Uruguay every single kid got a damn laptop. And every one of those laptops had Python, unfortunately, not Ruby. But they're going to learn to program, and that's the more important. And they also have Scratch. I mean, so everybody in this country has access to that. And they don't have access to it saying, well, you must learn to play Scratch or program in Python because it's a useful thing or because there's jobs or because we're going to help the economy. They think of it as making video games or making animations or playing. Just like we all thought of the first time we started building something as playing. Now, at some point, all these people who are playing with video games and playing with programming and animation and making stuff, someone at some point mentions to them that there is a job programming. And I know that you all went through this process of, there's a job doing something that's fun and playful. Like, the thing I was doing in my bedroom for fun, I could get paid to do it, and it's not prostitution. So, what do most people do at this point? Especially in Uruguay and in Latin America. You're like, I'm passionate about this, I've been told that there's work in this, I've been told that it's the future, and so you probably go get a formal education. Now, the really sad part is, as well-meaning as La Facultad de Ingeniería and ORT and all these other, and UTU and all these other ways in which you can BIOS and all the other ways you can study here, the fact of the matter is, it's a pretty useless education. And there's not a ton they can do about it as long as they think they're teaching you something concrete. Because the world of software development is a world that changes. It's not something that's fixed. So, what you needed to learn on your own or in the school was not how to fly down and catch the fish, or compile something in Java, or use Modula or whatever they're teaching. What you needed to do was learn how to think, learn how to explore, learn how to create, and that would let you to continue to learn and create into the future. The education system teaches us sort of to be monos con corbatas. They teach us that we should be like the people who go to the Genexus conference. It's a great conference, it's a great company, they've done a lot for software development here. And I'm sure a lot of you have gone to that conference, and if you weren't wearing a suit and a tie, you felt really uncomfortable because there's not a lot of t-shirts at that conference. So I don't want to say that they were bad. They've done a lot for this community, but they felt like it needed to be a serious professional thing. And unfortunately, they felt like they were teaching you tools. You would learn how to use their tools, and you'd use their tools to build stuff. But the reality is, when you learn tools, what you're really learning are bugs. You learn workarounds for all their different systems. You know, every time you tried to make something work with Internet Explorer 6 or 7, that's learning bugs. That's not learning anything that's useful in sort of your larger vision of what you're doing. It's not learning something that applies for it. And so that's learning that we should try and limit because it clutters our brain with useless information. And what I want to ask people to do is look for another path. The reason we started RubyConf Uruguay was because there wasn't a coherent space to fight for and argue for that other path. There wasn't a space where we said, we're about the community and the passion and the co-creation and the quality of our work itself and not some other thing. It's not about making money. It's not about creating jobs or growing the economy of Uruguay. Those things are fine, but that's not what we're about. We're about teaching each other so we can get better. We're about loving the work we do and improving it. And there's a deeper reason that Fernando started to talk about why we're doing that. It's because as software developers, as creators of technology, we're superheroes. We have powers to change the world that no one else has. We have more power to change the world than politicians. We have more power to change the world than the 1%, the richest people in the world. We have more power to change the world than whatever military. And the reason we have power to change the world is we can We can create the world. We create the way the world works. We are writing the software that runs the systems of the economy and the education and the society. We get to shape what is possible, what is easy, and what is hard. And so we get to choose that, and that comes with a lot of responsibility about how we shape it and how we direct it. And so I want there to be a space by which we are having that conversation. We're having the conversation of what we can be. And that we're not sort of whatever kind of just, this is a job, I go in, I click my clock, I check out. Not that those technologies are bad, but those communities have portions of them which are really passionate, but they have a lot of portions of it which are not. And so the free software communities have something much more important. And that is that we learn, we create, we teach together. We build a common platform together. We are together working to create a new world. And that's what we do, and that is the most important thing we do. We have all these different projects. We have all these different companies. We have jobs. We're freelancers. We get paid. We do all these other parts of our lives. But collectively what we do is we are building a new world. So I'm asking you to not be complacent about it, to keep on flying, and to remember that you have the freedom to be yourself here and now, and no one can stop that. Thank you very much.